Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and give us about 30 seconds before we start. Alrighty. Welcome in, everyone. Good morning or afternoon. My name is Mariela Salinas. I'm a marketing specialist here at Educate 360. Welcome to today's webinar, 5 Steps to a Successful Negotiation, presented by Watermark Learning's very own Director of Business Solutions, Dr. Susan Hydorn. We are in Zoom for today's session, and we will be sharing a copy of this recording with you in an email after the webinar. We do encourage participation throughout the webinar, so please use the chat or the Q&A option for our short Q&A after the presentation. Educate 360 is so excited to present this webinar today. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Dr. Hydorn.
Thank you very much, Mariella. So welcome, everyone. Appreciate you being here and taking time out. And so I'm going to assume that you want a few tips to better negotiate, and this will be the place to get those. We actually offer and I'm just going to do a little plug, a one-day class on negotiation as well. But if you're not able to take that, this will help you with a few tips that you can use. These are things that I actually use in my negotiations to be a lot more successful than I used to be. So welcome, welcome. So let's talk about session objectives. Of course, what are we going to cover? At this session, we're hoping that you'll distinguish between what is negotiation and what is not. And we're going to talk about the difference, because if you want to be successful in negotiating, you kind of need to know what it is and what it is not. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to give you really 5 tips to a successful negotiation. And then learn how to overcome your negotiation challenges, because sometimes negotiation doesn't quite go as well as the book or as the tips. It's like, darn, So what are some of those things that might be coming at you in which you really want to maybe overcome? And so we're going to look at that towards the end of the session. So I'm just curious, and I'm going to ask you to put this in the chat. What things have you negotiated the past year? Because we negotiate all the time, and when it's not important, maybe it doesn't make any difference on how you negotiate. If it's really important and you need to be successful, we're certainly going to give you tips to do that. But we're negotiating all the time. So what have you negotiated? I would even say in the past month. Salaries, and I actually use these techniques for my negotiation on a new job and salaries. So yep, chores, project deadlines for sure, scheduling, rates, times, locations, vacation, rental rates, contracts, hotel contracts, school regarding IEP support. Yeah, you definitely have to negotiate with your schools. Salary increase, training partners. Oh, I love these contract terms, promotions. We're doing it all the time. Supply contracts, vacation time off. I negotiated that too. A number of times. Buying a car. We just actually bought a car last month. So yes, I do know that negotiation. So salaries, love it. New house, awesome. Kids all the time. Yep, you're negotiating with your kids. Sometimes I think those are the hardest negotiations, right? Offsite facility agreement, home repairs. Wow, you're all awesome. Definitely have a lot of negotiation. So hopefully you're going to take away a few tips that you can use to be even more successful. All right, so let's talk about getting started on what negotiation is. Negotiation, and we don't always think about this, because at least I'm going to speak for myself. I didn't always think about this because I was so focused on getting to the end result. It's like, oh, I got to get to my end result. And after studying and when I was working with my doctorate degree, I actually had a class on negotiation from a person who does this for a living. And it's like, wow, I've been kind of approaching this a little bit, haphazardly maybe. So what they got me to realize that negotiation is a process. It's not the destination, it's a journey. And your whole purpose is to get to an outcome. And this is the interesting part that satisfies the interest of all parties, whoever you're negotiating with, right? And because you always have to you can negotiate with yourself, but you don't get too far. So you're either negotiating with one or more people, and you're trying to get to an outcome that satisfies both parties, And when I was young, when I was just negotiating, it was like me getting what I wanted, me getting what I wanted. And it's just like, wait a minute here. That's great if I can. And yet you want the other party to get something too. What do they get in return for you getting what you need, right? So it's a relationship building activity. It's a process. It's a journey. And once I thought about that, and it doesn't need to be done in 20 minutes, it might need to take longer. Obviously, it depends on what you're negotiating. But you might, when I negotiated one of my jobs, I mean, we negotiated for 6 months. It's just like we'd get together, have a little conversation, just say you think about it. I thought about it, and we'd come together, maybe every so often. And towards the end, we came together more frequently and put all the marbles in place, so to speak, and negotiate a deal where both of us could hang our heads high and win from that. So that's what we're kind of looking at. The other thing is when we negotiate, we want to be able to separate the position from the interest. And so it's like, okay, Susan, what do you mean by position versus interest? Position is what you say you want. Here's what I want. Okay. The interest, though, is why you want it. And that interest opens up a whole new playbook for you. So I'm just going to do a really silly little example here, but what it does is it exemplifies position versus interest. So let's say you have two people and that you can actually open a window. So if you have an old building, sometimes you can open the windows. And most of the buildings are all hermetically sealed, but we're going to pretend this one opens. So, it's maybe an older building. So, one person is in the office and they close the window, and then the other person says, "Oh God, it's too stuffy in here," and they open the window. And so their position really is, I want it closed, I want it open, I want it closed, I want it open. Who is going to win at that? Nobody. You can argue till the cows come home. You can't have it closed or opened at the same time. Now, you could maybe just meet in the middle and say, okay, we'll do a half. We'll open the window halfway up so that it's a little open and it's a little closed. Little compromise, right? Are both people happy? Probably not. Probably both people are not going to be happy. So the thing is we're just negotiating on our position. I want it closed, I want it open. I'm closed, open, open. Now the question is the why. Get down to the interest. So why do you want it closed? Why do you want it open? Well, maybe one person wants it open because it's stuffy in the office space. Maybe somebody has too much cologne or perfume that they can make your eyes water. They needs to breathe fresh air. And the other person maybe wants it close. Maybe they have allergies, or maybe they feel like they're getting sick, or some people just run hot and some people just run cold, depends on how many layers they have on. Maybe they don't want to be in a draft because they get the cold or flu really easily. There's a whole lot of things there. And so once you know their interest, saying, hey, I don't want the window open, I don't want to be in a draft, I don't, it's too chilly. Oh, all of a sudden options. Okay, well, I can move that person so that they're not in front of the window. I could maybe figure out how to block maybe some of the air currents so that they're not in the draft. I could, if they're cold, maybe I know a lot of times people have had little heaters under their desk. I mean, there's just a lot of things. All of a sudden, I had listed what, 3, 4, 5 different options in order for them both to win. How do we give what the person who wants to open window, maybe they just need ventilation or air moving. Maybe I get them a fan, you know, or maybe I get a heater, or maybe I move them so that one's in by the window and the other one isn't by the way. I mean, there's just so many options. But to just disagree on open, closed, open, closed, open, closed won't get me anywhere. The key to negotiation is understanding both parties of what their interest is. Why do they want it? So that we can brainstorm additional options and figure out something that's going to make them both happy. That is the underlying premise of negotiation. So what are the key qualities of negotiation? Look, first of all, it takes 2 or more people. Like I said, you can negotiate with yourself, but not so much fun and you don't get too far. All parties, you could be just 2 of you or could be more, have a goal to achieve. It might not be the same goal, but they have a goal that they have in their mind going, I want to achieve that. If I'm going to hire Susan, this is kind of what I would need from Susan. Here's the outcomes that I'd like to see. And so I might have a goal to, this is kind of the job I want. And so they might be the same goals, but they might not. Both parties expect the negotiation to be fair and satisfactory. That is key. So you're not out to get someone. They're not, you hope they're not out to get you, but that is fair. Let's come to a understanding and outcome that everyone can hold their head high and be able to achieve. And that's satisfactory and feel like it's been fair, And so the other thing is that, well, I'm going to be able to listen to options. Maybe there's some other options I haven't thought about. So I'm open to modifying maybe my position of window open, window closed, and really understanding the purpose of negotiation rather than it's, I've got you. It's like, no, let's negotiate. Let's build a relationship where both of us can still be friends at the end of the day, or at least, colleagues. So there's really 2 levels of negotiation that there exist. The first one is process. There is a process to negotiation. You got to figure out what you need. And process always has to be done first. How long is it going to take? Are we taking 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, hour and a half a day? What do we have? Okay. What things might speed up, slow down? Who must be on board and make the decision? Now, I have negotiated sometimes where you negotiate and maybe we've had a team meeting and we've met for a couple months. And then all of a sudden, and I've done this, I've been an independent consultant for many, many years, as well as a trainer, educator. And there are times where we just have to negotiate. Maybe we negotiate what's being done or the price or whatever. And so sometimes it just takes a little bit longer than other times. And the worst thing that can happen, and maybe some of you have been here too, is that you're really intent in negotiating. You laid all your cards on the table, and they laid their cards, they laid their interest on the table. That doesn't mean you have to give them everything, but what they need to know. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we're good. Everybody good? Yeah, we're going to go forward with this. And then realize that the decision makers aren't even in the room. And there's nothing worse than saying, oh, yeah, I got to go check with Bob or Sally, and go, what's Bob and Sally? Oh, they have to approve approve this. And it's like, well, why weren't they in the room? It's kind of like if you get, somebody said they negotiated a car, and I don't know if it's from a dealership, but what always drove me is crazy in a dealership. You negotiate with the salesperson and you negotiate and you go, okay, I can live with that. They can live with that. They go, well, I got to go check with my boss, and they disappear for, 20 minutes. It's like, well, why didn't I just negotiate with your boss? Why take all this time? So you really want to make sure the right people are there that make the decision, if all possible. Sometimes you don't get a choice in that, but if all possible, make sure that they're involved, because otherwise you got to start negotiating all over again. And it's like, oh my gosh. So again, it's all the logistics, getting the right people in the room, the timing down, all of that is that process thing that is very, very important. Finding a place to negotiate where you're not going to get interrupted. There's nothing worse than you're sitting in somebody's office negotiating, and then people keep streaming people out back and forth. I mean, that doesn't help either. So making sure you have those logistical pieces. And then the second will be substance. This is what we want to talk about. And so once you got that process situated, then you want to really focus. What are the terms of the deal? What is your position? What are your interests? And then you can go forward with that. The other thing to note is that there are 3 approaches to negotiation. You can have soft negotiation, where most of the time in soft negotiation, you just kind of give in. It's like, because the relationship is more important. Maybe you're negotiating with a friend or a colleague, and you're just like, or you don't feel like you're in a position of strength. And so you go, oh, okay, well, if you think that's best, so you're kind of a little bit giving maybe more than you needed to. So you want to you're soft on the people, because I want to keep your friendship, or I want to play nice. So you kind of give in. Then there's the hard, damn the torpedoes. I'm going to win at any cost. And too bad if people get run over. Okay, that's more of your hard. But what's really better is more of a collaborative effort. How about figuring out something that we can win-win? Maybe we're not going to each get 100% of what we want, but if we can get 75, 80%, hey, that's pretty darn good. And let's make sure we keep the relationship going, so that we build that trust, which makes it even better in negotiation. So how do we work on the problem, which might be really tough to negotiate, and save the people, the relationship that we have? And so part of negotiation is taking time to build that relationship, because the stronger the relationship, the more trust, the more we're going to have a productive negotiation. The other critical elements before we get into your 5 tips is time, information, and power. Time is interesting, because it does take time, particularly, I mean, you can think about it in real life. If you're talking about negotiating between countries, right? Those sometimes take months and years. And the interesting thing is, according to research, 80% of the most productive outcomes come in the last 20% of your negotiation. So it's being patient, it's building those relationships, and understanding each other, and understanding where each other's coming from. And so it does take time. Now, if it's something, it's like, okay, well, if we're going to negotiate where to go to dinner, you don't want to take 3 weeks for that, unless it's something special. Maybe your anniversary, maybe you want 3 weeks to negotiate where you're going. But if you're just going, it's like, let's go out to supper, and determining where you want to go, you probably don't want to spend that much time on it. But if it's really important to you, you may have to. Information. The key here is the person with the best information, data, that you have the correct data, you have the best data, you have more data than the other person, is going to have an advantage in negotiation. So when I go and negotiate, one of the key things I do is get my information ready. What data do I know? What data do they know? And then the power. Now, I've had to negotiate with bosses. I've had to negotiate with people way above me. And at first I let that power intimidate me. And then realizing, you know what? I'm letting my power go. We all have power. We all have self-power, right? Maybe we don't have hierarchical power, but we all have self-power. And we can't let people take that away. We just have just as much right to negotiate as anyone else. And we all come to the table. And so appreciate your own power and don't give it away, because your power is your own. And so just kind of being able to think about, don't get intimidated because you think somebody's higher up on the ladder. They may not know any more than you do, and you might have a better outcome and solution for everyone than they do. So here are your tips, top 5. One, we're going to talk about preparing for negotiation, because that is key. Those who prepare have a better chance of success. And then we'll talk about how do you open the negotiation, exchange information, generate options, and then finalize that agreement. So we're going to start with prepare. And like I said, this is really a critical piece, because the more you prepare, you got the data, the better position you're going to be into being able to negotiate. So here's your prep checklist. First, and this is interesting, first, determine if negotiation is your best path. It's like, wow, to me, I never thought about that. Stop and think about, does it make sense to negotiate this? Or maybe it makes sense just to say, you know what? I'm going to do the soft negotiation thing. It's my boss, and I'm going to just say, okay, fine, whatever. Or maybe it's, I want to keep the relationship, so I'm not prepared to go into negotiation mode. So there might be reasons you don't want to go there. The question is if you think there can be a fair chance of both parties coming together, that you can get to an outcome, that nobody's going to be, personally attacked, then you probably want to negotiate. Determine your negotiation goals. And I would say your position as well, determine those. What do you want to get out of it? And usually it's to me it's a win-win, so that both parties can have something that they need. Collecting that data so that I have accurate data. It's not like, well, I think 80% of, whatever. Or if I'm doing a salary negotiation, I darn well better know what salaries everybody else is making at that level. Okay, so if I'm at a level 5, what's the range of a level 5? Or if I'm doing, that they don't have levels, but it's just like, okay, what do comparable other people get paid to do this job, right? And so I need to collect that data, so I'm not thinking, well, I just want $200,000 a year, and they'll go, where did you get that? Well, it's kind of a nice number, and I kind of feel like I'm worth it. So you really do have to have the data. And then determine, because I said determine your interest. Why do you need that? Why do you need $200,000 for a salary? Or why do you need that car, or whatever you're negotiating? So what are the nice to haves and the must haves? And so you're prioritizing those needs. So when you talk about them getting their interest on the table, you put your interest on the table, prioritize them, because maybe you won't get every single thing that you would like, but make sure you can at least have some of those must haves. So you got to be able to prioritize them. And then your BATNA, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. This has saved me. When it is seriously negotiation time for me, I always have a BATNA. And this is the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. And this is my savior. This has just alleviated the pressure. And it's like, okay, Well, we'll figure out something. And I'm going to share that with you after this slide. Identify your real interest, not just your position. I want the window open or closed. I want 200,000. But what are your real interests? Why do you need that? Why do you need that new car? Why do you need to be able to, I think somebody said flex time. Maybe you have to negotiate on how many days you can work at home, how many days you come to the office or whatever. Why do you need that? Be ready to be prepared, not just because I'd like to work at home. Well, it's probably not going to get you very far. Why do you need it? Well, I have kids at home. I got to, do some other things. Or I'm taking care of a more older parent or whatever. I mean, there's legitimate reasons why we want what we want generally. So what are those interests and being able to prioritize those interests? So not just your position. Create an environment, like I said, that process piece. Where can we meet? When can we meet? Make sure nobody's interrupting you while you're negotiating. And then prepare your opening statements. What does that look like? Why are you there? There's times where I tried to negotiate and I wasn't really sure about anything, except that, well, I'm just going to kind of throw that out there. Well, you know what? Let me tell you, never worked, because I wasn't clear at what I wanted. I wasn't clear at what I needed. I didn't even know what that outcome should look like. So the other person certainly didn't. And normally I was not too effective. And then preparing your mindset. And the two things that we're going to talk about, because unfortunately, it's not a day-long class, because I'd love to share all of this with you. We're going to take two of those, the BATNA and prepare your mindsets here. So BATNA, which is, again, have to have one, is the best alternative to negotiate agreement. If an agreement cannot be reached, because sometimes you can't, it's like, okay, are there any other alternatives to pursue? So for instance, what happens if you don't sell a house at a certain time? It's like, gosh, you know what? I'm been relocated to California or Texas or, New England, wherever. I got to get my house sold, right? And what happens, you're leaving August 30th is coming. I got to have the house sold and still not sold. So what do? Okay, a BATNA will say, gee, I have options. If this doesn't work, it's okay. It's okay. And what happens with the options is just lowers the adrenaline. It lowers your tension, because I have options. So I can keep the house on the market, if I have to move on the 30th, but I can still have my real estate agent just keep it on the market till it sells. Okay. Keep the house and put it on the market later. Sometimes market conditions aren't very good, and so maybe you just want to keep it and just maybe shut it down, pay what you need. Rent it. Maybe you could rent it. There were some houses in our neighborhood where the person had to travel and had to move, and they just rented it until they found a buyer. Get a company to buy it. We buy ugly houses. I don't know if but I just always remember those commercials. But you could get a company to buy it or do a trade. Maybe I think it's harder. I live in Minnesota, so how many people do I really want to move to Minnesota? I don't know. There's a lot. It's great in the fall and the spring and the summer, but not so great in the wintertime. But you see, you have options. And it's just like, to me, it's just like, okay, if this doesn't work, if we can't get to an agreement, okay, we did our best. I have other options. I have other vendors I can look for. If this doesn't work, I really liked working with y'all. Really did. You did good job. Here are some of the things we need. I want to know what you need. But at the end of the day, if we can't negotiate, I've got other options. So what happens if I don't get that raise or I don't get that job? What's my options? Well, I can keep my job and say nothing. It was worth a try. What the heck? You always can ask. That's what I figure. Post for open positions, which I have done in the if I couldn't get what I wanted in my job, I just went for other positions. Ask the manager what you can do. It's like, okay, I'd really like to move up. What can I do to do that? Maybe they can put that in your, performance goals for the year, or find a new job in another organization. That's what I did when I was looking for my full-time position, because normally I was a consultant for many, many years on my own. And then I needed a real job because my husband decided to retire a little early. But so I had to negotiate my position. And you know what? I said, okay, so if I don't get that, this was kind of my ideal job. But if I didn't get it, it's like, okay, what are my options? Well, I could stay consulting. I did that for 20 years on my own. I can do it some more. I could join a consulting company. Okay. I could look for other positions that wasn't this position. So I mean, there's always options. Maybe they're not your favorite option, but there's always options. And what this does is I came to the table going, "Oh, you know what? I'd love this. I'd love this opportunity. If it doesn't work, we'll still have a relationship, because the group that I joined, I don't knew for 30 years. So I'm not certainly going to beat that relationship up. But it's like, you know what, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Everybody comes to the table. Maybe it's not the right time for you, or you can't meet my salary or whatever. It's okay. It's okay. This is, and I gave them all the data. I said, this is the amount I needed. It wasn't just a, stretch amount. I even gave, I even said, here's my bills. This is what I need to sustain my life. Um, and so it worked out. And so, but it just relieved, like, oh my gosh, if I don't get this job, I'll never get another job in my entire life. I just got to get this, and then you start giving away more than you really need to. You go, okay, I'll work for $1. I just really, I know I'm being a little facetious here, but I find for myself that in negotiation, if I don't have BATNA, and it's important to me, I start okay, I'll, and give away things that I don't need to, or pay a price I don't need to. And that doesn't mean you lowball it, but it's just, having options. It's like, okay, well, here's my, thing. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. This is what I need. I'm just being very honest, transparent with you, and kind of be able to move on. All right. So here's the thing about BATNA. Create a list of actions if you can't reach an agreement. Always make sure you have options. Take those best ideas, make them practical, and then select alternatives. So if it doesn't work out, it's like, okay, still friends. And then tips is never, never, never negotiate. This, like I said, this alleviates. It's like, oh, I got options. I don't have to worry about it. Don't disclose your BATNA. So BATNA, the other thing is I want to tell you is it's not a bottom line. It's not like if I'm buying a car and it's like, I'm not paying more than $35,000 and maybe it happened to be a $55,000 car. They're not going to reduce it to 20,000 for it generally. So it's not a bottom line. It's, if this doesn't work out, I have other options. Because you want to make it work out for them too, because if it doesn't work out for them, guess what? They're never going to negotiate with you or not trust you. Why would I negotiate with you? Last time you just took me to the cleaners. I don't need that. You want to keep that relationship. And that's why BATNA is, it's like, well, okay, I only have, $35,000 to spend. So what do you have that we can negotiate that I can drive away in? But don't give your BATNA out until, just know you have other options. You don't have to tell them. I mean, you can say I have other options. You don't have to tell them what they are. And remain flexible. The other thing is prepare your mindset. One of the key things is don't look at them as the enemy, somebody to win over. It's just like, you know what? We're two people. We're coming together. We'll see if we can work this out. If it doesn't, I have my BATNA. It's okay. So try to stay positive. Don't let them take away your power. And making sure that you're still developing the relationship, building the relationship, keeping that relationship, even if you don't get to an agreement, and just being positive, Protect the other person should be your partner, your ally, not your enemy, because that's when you get things done. So then to open the negotiation, here's some tips, and I kind of went a little forward here, but consider the other person a partner. Event options, like how can we both win? How can we both get stuff that we want that are on our interest level? Try to understand the other person's perspective. What do you need? It's not all about what you need, it's what they need too. So if you can give a little, they can give a little, and everybody, has some of their interests met. So try to understand, ask them for their interest. So tell me, why do you need this contract? Why do you need this sale price, and try and get an understanding of where they're at. Build that trust and that relationship. Active listening. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth. We should be listening more than talking. So try and get them to give you information, to give you data to work with. Put it out on the table. See what you have. And active listening is something I'm trying to get better at. So I'm trying to improve myself on that one. And then separate the people from the issue. They work hard on the issue. And this is exactly what happens when countries are negotiating, they're trying to keep that relationship with the country and just working really hard on the issues. And issues are convoluted and they're messy and they're complex. But make sure you retain your relationship and don't make them the issue, make the problem that you're trying to solve the issue. The other thing that has served me well in negotiation is infer good intentions. If I come to the table and say, oh, they're out to get me, I already lost, because I'm just going to look for things that, oh, they're out to get me. They're just going to, by infer good intentions, that they're coming to the table with good intentions and I'm coming to the table with good intentions. And it's like, and if they don't, there's times where maybe they don't come with good intentions, then maybe you don't want to negotiate with them. And then focus certainly on learning from your partner. What do you need? What do you want? So preparing an open statement, first of all, you have to say, what is the situation? Why are we here? I'm here to buy a car, or I'm here to see if you want to hire me. Put in better words than that. But, what is the situation you're negotiating? Because otherwise, if you go around the mulberry bush, nobody's going to understand, how are we doing this? Confirm the time. Okay, let's see. My understanding is we have an hour. Is that correct? Or maybe we have an hour and a half, or depends on how long negotiation needs to be. But determine that time available, because a lot of times when I've done that, it's like, I think we have 2 hours. Is that correct? Oh, no, I know we planned for 2 hours, but I have to leave at, whatever. And so just make sure you know that up front, because the last thing you want to do is get in the middle of negotiating and, doing your thing. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I got to go pick up the kids from school. And I forgot my husband had an appointment, so he couldn't do it. Make sure you confirm the time. Frame the issue. Here's the issue as I see it. How do you see it? Certainly clarify their perceptions, clarify their position. Okay, this is what your outcome is. Here's my outcome, position. What are the interests? Make sure that everyone that you need, the decision makers, are at that table. And really remember, negotiation is a process. You want to develop the relationship at the same time you're negotiating. So exchange information. Okay, so you're going to advocate for your interest. Avoid those self-limitations like, oh, I can't ask for this. Oh, you can ask for the moon. You might not get it, and you should have a BATNA in case you don't get the moon, but ask. You'd be amazed at how many things that we could ask for that we don't think that, oh, I shouldn't ask for that. It's like, why not? Ask for, they can always say no. You're taking away their right to say no. So ask. So don't put those limitations on you, and you not demand, you're asking. And then connect. Help the other party go. It's like, okay, here's kind of what you want, here's what I want. Let's talk about why we want it and see if there's any, things that we can both have. So you want to advocate as well for their interests. You want to help them negotiate. And then show the other party that you value them, maybe document or capture all the ideas out there. It's like, okay, what options can we do to meet some of those interests? And again, they should be prioritized. What are your top 3 interests? I'll tell you my top 3 interests and see if you can get a solution that meets those. And then dialogue. You start talking to the person, in a respectful manner. Hey, if I could be wrong on this, can you just let me know? Here's kind of the data I have. Is that what you have? Well, we really came to the table. We want fairness, and I'm sure that you do too, in applying good intentions. We'd like to settle this on the basis of independent standards. Or, could I ask you a few questions? I'm not sure. Maybe my facts aren't right. These are the data pieces I have. I mean, were you seeing something else? Or let me understand what you're saying. Or, I'm having a little trouble following your reasoning from point A to point B. If I understand you correctly, and you're really having active dialogue as you are negotiating. One fair solution might be, and just, I'm thinking, I'm just brainstorming, not making any decisions. Let's just kind of think about, here's a couple ideas I have. What ideas do you have? And so then you start bargaining, making offers and counter offers. So it's like, well, how about this? And then they might come back, well, what about this? And how about this? You don't want to stall or stonewall. It's proactive. You're just throwing things out there, seeing, reaching agreements, saying, how do we meet most of our needs? What you don't want to do is bargaining in bad faith. So having underlying goals and objectives that you haven't specified, so they don't know. So it's kind of, coming to the table with your other intentions. Take it or leave it. That's it. Take it or leave it. That's it. It's my bottom line. Bottom lines don't get you anywhere. It's your BATNA that helps. Or using delay tactics. That's not helpful. So then you're going to generate options. Examine the issue, whatever that issue is. Maybe it's buying the car, maybe it's getting a new job, maybe it's increase in salary or a promotion or whatever. It's just like, okay, so that's the issue, the situation. You're both brainstorming, what options do we have? Well, maybe you can't have that promotion right now, but here, let's kind of create a plan so that you can move up. Maybe you have to do some training, or maybe you have to do some education, maybe you have to work on some extra projects or whatever. What is it going to take to get to that next level of promotion? Generate lots of options. There is never a best. The thing is that it just kind of depends. There's never a silver bullet. As you all probably work on projects, there's no silver bullet, as much as, sometimes I'd like to think there is. But, you have a lot of options. Which one makes the most sense and which one is going to meet most of the interest of both parties? And so you're separating the options then from the selection. So right now we're generating, just doesn't matter if it doesn't work, brainstorming. Let's just generate options and then get them all on the table. Because if you stop and you start judging, then all creativity stops. So let's just throw it to the wind, what are the options out, and then kind of figure out, okay, which ones of these are going to make the most sense, which ones are going to meet the most interest, And that's where we start finalizing the agreement. So we say, okay, here's the solutions. These are the top three. Now out of the top three, let's kind of narrow it down. Do we both agree on this? Yes. So you want to summarize the agreement, the next steps. And here's the other thing. And I know we were talking about relationship building and trust, but get it in writing. You know, I, you have to trust the other person, but I'm still going to say get it in writing, because I've seen too many times, and maybe this has happened to you, that you get an agreement from someone and they go, oh, did we have that conversation? I kind of forgot. Oh, well, just get it in writing and get the next steps down. And then developing that action plan, because if you don't get it in writing, it's your word against theirs, and they can easily forget it. Certainly thank everyone, and just maintain the relationship, maintain the friendship after that agreement. So some negotiation challenges, to kind of finish on that. Sometimes, as much as you don't want, that you're building that relationship, you're implying good intentions, it sometimes happens the other side may try and make the issue about you. It's about you, which is a fallacy. It's usually the red herrings and the ad hominems that are coming at you. It's like they're making you the issue versus the issue itself, so that you'll go, oh, so denial, no, it isn't about me, or retaliation, or ignoring the situation doesn't help, but reframing does. So when you're faced with power grab moves, when you're faced with shadow bargaining, shadow negotiation, you don't want to attack what they're doing. You're going to look at it. It's like, what if maybe they won't give you their interest? It's like, why won't you give me the interest? What's around that? Don't defend your ideas. It's like, well, I'm just throwing them out if maybe they won't work. So let's kind of talk about it. Why won't it work? Reattack or recast the attack on you as attack on the problem. Well, let's look at a problem, because you don't want to make it around the people, because then people will just get defensive. Adrenaline will start flowing, and when adrenaline starts flowing in the human body, we cease to listen because we're in that fight or flight response. We don't want to go there in negotiation, because then you lose your spot, you lose your power. You don't want that, because sometimes they'll see if they can get you to do that, and that's not where you want to go. So maybe you need to, ask questions and pause. So here are some of the things to do when they start doing something that's probably not appropriate, is name the move. Call it out. Well, it seems like you're attacking me instead of the problem here. So what's going on? Just call them out on it, because sometimes they'll go like, oh yeah, I was. They won't tell you that, but it's like, dang, I got caught. It's just like, hey, I'm just calling it. Interrupt the move. Hey, can we take a break? I need to run to the restroom or something, or I just need to grab a glass of water or something. So just to interrupt it, get them out of that cadence. Question the move. Hey, I'm really puzzled by where are we going with this? I don't understand how that's going to help us negotiate. Correct the move. Thinking about, well, my salary requests are pretty much in line. I mean, as you can see, according to the data, this is the range. So I'm not asking for anything that is outside that range, so just bringing it back. And then, or divert the move, kind of figuring out how to move forward, shift the conversation. Sometimes they'll try and get you off kilter, or maybe it's something that has nothing to do with the negotiation. It's kind of like a red herring, a squirrel moment. Just bring it back. It's like, okay, yeah. So let's come back to kind of what we were talking about. So sometimes it's just, I find it easier just to name the move. It's just like, okay, where are we going with this? This isn't making sense. Because if you need time to think, maybe, or you're not ready, maybe we can talk later, you know. So those are some good things to kind of be able to do. So my final negotiating tips is number one, don't narrow the issue down to just one issue. There could be many issues, could be many interests. Realize your partner doesn't have the same needs or wants as you. And maybe they don't even have the same data, so you got to even discover that. So don't assume that you know their needs or that you know their partner. Seek input, replace you and me with we. There's nothing worse than you people, because I used to hear that from you people. It's like, well, you people, what's a you people? So how about we? How about we come to the table and we figure out how to deal with this? So generate options for mutual gain. Be soft on the people. Again, building that relationship is a journey, not a destination. Be hard on the problem and ensure that as you look brainstorming solutions that they do have some, objective criteria so that you can judge them accordingly and making sure everything works for everyone. So recapping, we talked about what negotiation is and what is not. We talked about 5 key steps to successful negotiation and overcoming a few negotiation challenges. So with that said, and there is a negotiation class coming up in November 8th, if any of you are interested. But now I think it is time for any questions you have. And Mariella, I will let you monitor the questions and then we have a few minutes to answer them.
Hey, Susan, absolutely. Yeah, we had one quick question here. Can you repeat number 3, question the move? I think that was one
Oh,
of
question
real
the
quick.
move
Yeah.
is really about, Sam, what's going on here? Because this doesn't seem like this is helpful to the negotiation. So it's kind of like calling out the move, but questioning the move is, I'm really puzzled about why you're doing that. I'm unsure what prompted you to talk about Bill when Bill has nothing to do with this, or or talking or questioning my competence or something. I mean, because we're talking about X, so. So it's really about telling the other person, okay, so what's going on? I don't understand this. It's kind of like calling the move a little bit, but it's a little nuanced, I would say, more than anything.
Excellent. Awesome. And we had another question here. What is a viable technique when negotiations reach an impasse? Good question.
Well, one, have your BATNA, because if you have your BATNA, it doesn't matter if they get to an impasse, because there's always options. There's always other options. If any of you are Star Trek fans, I don't believe in the Kobayashi Maru. There's always options. I don't believe in the no-win scenario. So I never want to give up. But some of the other parties will give up, and so I guess if you're at an impasse, maybe just building the relationship a little stronger, identifying their interest, what are their concerns, why are we not being able to move forward? They may have constraints that they didn't tell you. And there might be some legitimate constraints. It's like, yeah, you know what? Maybe we can't negotiate now, but maybe we can come back to the table in a month. It just really kind of depends on the situation.
Fantastic.
And Anya, I believe it's 1 PDU, isn't it, Mariella?
Correct. Yes, absolutely. It's going to be one PDU. I think there was a little confusion upon how long the webinar was going to be. It is going to be 1 hour, so one PDU. Yes. Alrighty. And then we had another question here, which was where do you find the best slash most effective real world negotiation examples?
Well, there's a lot of books on negotiation. You certainly can go to Amazon and find a ton. Some of the negotiation ones that I think are best are older ones, you know. And I'm trying to, of course, now that I have to think about it, I'm not at my home office because otherwise I would just look on my shelves and tell you about four of them. And they're on my shelf, so I don't have to remember them. I just go there when I need to. So, but I would just say, you know, just kind of do some research. Yes, getting to yes. I love that book. It's simple, but it's really has some good stuff. Yeah, it's getting to yes is a really good one. Oh, never split a difference. Oh, I love that one. I gotta try that one. I haven't read that one. Yeah. Has anyone used AI yet for negotiating techniques? Could try it, you know. But the
Incoming
thing is,
next webinar.
the thing about just I would just caveat AI because AI just, you know, searches through a lot of information that's out there and it can capture a lot of good information, but it can capture a lot of junk too. It's kind of that old garbage in, garbage out type thing. And there's a lot of garbage out there. Yeah, how to win friends, influence people. I think that's great. That is excellent. Marielle, anything else? I know there's some slide questions.
Yeah, we had a couple questions about like the recording in the slides. You'll be getting a recording in an email after the webinar, and it'll have all of these slides and Dr. Susan talking over them. And then we had one last question here. Should we actually we have two more? Should we start from the most important thing for us, or should we leave it on the second or the third point? Assuming when they
Well, when you
negotiate.
get to the interest, I would, you know, sometimes you can advocate for their interest first and then write your interest down. You certainly prioritize your interest. Whether you leave your, I would make sure that you tell them that is one of your priority interest. Whether you leave it to a second or third option is kind of up to you. There was one person, Michael, who said AI helps get background information on the company or organization negotiating with absolutely, absolutely. Wherever you can get, again, it's about the data. Those people who have the best data have the best leg up, I would say, on negotiating, you know, because you have the data, it's right here. Do you see something that doesn't match what you need? So missing anything else, Marielle? I know we're getting close to time.
We are getting close to time, and I think we can squeeze one more question, the final question here. It was, I believe it was from Ricardo here. Could you share or cite, if you have it, an example where the negotiation had a win-win situation?
Well, I think most negotiations should have win-win. I think that's always your aim. Always. You shouldn't, if possible, leave the table without a win-win so that you get some of your interest met, they get some of their interest met. So that's kind of the whole key to successful negotiation. You know, everybody wins instead of somebody loses and somebody wins. And I think, Mariella, how to claim a PDU.
Yes, I was actually about to drop the link. You read my mind.
Oh, I'm sorry. Got ahead
No,
of
you're on it. No, I love it. I was about to type, you can claim it here. Um, but I believe that was actually our last question. So, other than that and all the questions about the recording, I just wanted to take a second to thank you, Dr. Hydorn. This was a lot of amazing info, and our audience says it too. So, if you all need any more info on this topic, please do not be afraid to visit us at watermarklearning.com. And if you missed out on any part of the session, we will be sharing that recording with y'all in an email after the webinar. So, thank you again, Dr. Hydorn.
Have a great day, everyone, and good luck in your next
Absolutely.
negotiation.
Use these tips, use these tactics, and we will see you very soon. Alrighty. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.